Really good to see you. Glad we could put this together. I'm really very pleased you were able to get here, and I'm going to be learning a lot, so bear with my ignorance of the military. Okay. But I'll be asking you things that welcome very much to Conversations at Manhattan Network.
Okay. Thank
you.
You
got to think about you becoming a producer over here, maybe, of a television series. Do you think you might want to do that?
I don't think so.
Okay. And in the audience, welcome very, very much to Conversations. A pleasure to welcome to the program Nethaniel James, and he is a retired Major General of the United States Army, and I know he's the president of the Fighting 537th? 369th here in New York currently, but he's had a long career in the military, and we're going to welcome him to the program. And Nethaniel James, welcome very, very much to Conversation.
Okay.
Really a pleasure to welcome you. I wonder if you could share with us your own personal background, born and raised, educated a little bit, and then we can talk some about your career and other matters of the human condition, but if you would, please.
Okay. I was born in the South Carolina, a small town called Branchville. Ironically, the reason it's called Branchville is because it's the only branch, the first branch in the United States in a railroad was made at that junction.
Really?
And that's why they call the town Branchville.
Funny how names come, yeah.
Right. It's a farming community.
Yeah.
Naturally, my family was poor. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Because when you're poor, you don't know you're poor.
That's right.
And we had something to eat. We were farmers. So
you and I were born the same year, 1935, in the middle of the Depression.
Right.
Terrible
the
time.
Middle of it.
But everybody was poor, so you didn't know it.
So you didn't know it.
Yeah,
right.
so that may be a reckoning for people who are facing hard economic times as we look ahead, maybe.
That's right.
To take some, comfort in that, yeah.
Change comes about, that's it. At any rate, from there, what happened is that, being a segregated South, it's too hard to get along.
Yeah.
And my father moved north for better opportunities.
The Great Migration.
Right, and then he moved the family right after he came up.
Did he come to New York? Or
came to New York City.
Okay.
He was a railroader.
A railroader,
and a farmer. So, and we were the farmers, and he was the railroader. So he went to work for the Pennsylvania Railroad when he came to New York.
In what way was he?
He's a trackman.
Trackman, okay,
right.
laying the track, doing the work.
He didn't have a great deal of education. He went to the third grade, and from the third grade, he was. They figured that was enough school. For him to get by well. They figured it wasn't going to amount to anything, so you had to learn to work on the farm and do other things.
Yeah.
It's one thing he told me all the time, though. He says, get a trade.
Yeah.
He says, if you get a trade, you'll always be able to eat. And so right he was.
Okay.
Because as we got to New York, we lived on 8th Avenue.
8th Avenue where? What time?
This is about 120th Street, somewhere along there.
Just in Harlem.
We lived in a coal flat.
What's a coal flat?
Coal flat is where they don't provide any heat for you.
Coal flat. Yeah.
COLD.
Yeah, I know. Coal co-op or something.
Yeah, you had a stove in the kitchen, and where you had a hot water jacket on the stove, and that's how you got your hot water.
Oh, boy.
The only thing came up was cold water through the faucet. So when you took a bath, you had to heat all the water, pour it in the tub, then mix it with cold water. And that was it. Well, my father and my mother together, they had 9 children.
Wow, that's a big family.
I didn't have too many opportunities to think about what I wanted.
Right.
You just
lived. Get to the bathroom first.
You just lived apart.
Yeah, and you had brothers and sisters and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Where were you? Were you in the middle or?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
Or should I say, near the middle end.
Okay.
So I have 4 sisters that are older than me, and 2 brothers that were older. And then I had the 2 behind me, one sister and then a brother. Brother was the youngest.
How are they doing? Are they still all with us? Or
no, they're all gone except one sister and one brother.
Really?
Right.
Sad, yeah.
That's our age.
Yeah, I know. I had 2 sisters. They're still hanging in there and everything.
Not because of...
You had a warm family setting? Was it friendly? Was it good and encouraging and everything, even though the situation was difficult? Do you know what I'm saying? Was it a warm family?
But it was a warm family. It was not only your immediate family, but your extended family.
In New York, you're talking
In New York. They all moved mostly from the South into New York. And, naturally they stayed in contact with each other.
Yeah.
And they did things. They supported each other. Let's put it that way.
Right. That's important, isn't it?
And that was really important.
It's important not only in bad times but also in good times. It's
right.
important.
And
we sometimes lose that when we get into good times.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it was always there.
Yeah.
I always remember my uncle, my mother's side. Now, he would look for opportunities for us to get different things, and then he would let us know about it.
He was up here in New York also?
He was here in New York
South Carolina?
From South Carolina.
Yeah,
the whole family moved out.
There were a lot of people who moved up from South.
See, the farms were still there.
Yeah.
So the farms were left to those that were there. And little by little, they sold it off, or it was stolen from them some way or another. And so the opportunities were here. And it said, if you can live, you get into New York. And they always had these funny stories, you know, about money growing on trees.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I don't know how much they believed them, but it wasn't true.
Right, streets paved with gold, opportunity, yeah.
But all my schooling was here in New York City.
Okay. How old were you when you came here?
I think I was 4.
4? Okay,
yeah,
right, So you don't have much remembrance of
I don't have, I have a little memory of the South, but only on the farm.
Right.
But because that was my whole world.
Right. And it was rural, right?
Yeah.
Down in South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. Okay,
so
right.
in other words, I didn't go out anywhere because I was a kid.
Right.
And the most I could do is play around the farmhouse. So.
Yeah. Your dad encouraged you to get a trade. Did he encourage you to get education? And
oh
so
yes.
forth? They did. So they were encouraging education.
Education.
That's important, too.
And the ability to feed yourself.
To feed yourself, that was the one. Yeah, that's right. To be practical in that sense.
Actually, I had a job since I was 8 years old.
No kidding.
Right.
Let me guess. Don't tell me. Let me guess. Paper boy.
No.
No. Packing boy at the supermarket.
No.
What was the job?
Well, they didn't have
running
many
numbers. No.
They didn't have many supermarkets then.
You're right. Yeah.
I was a delivery boy.
I was just going to say delivery boy.
For the grocery
grocery store, right?
It was Italian American grocery, and the fellow had smuggled himself in from Poland. Through Italy, down through South America, up through Mexico, into the United States.
A real New York City
still
story.
going on.
Yes, yeah.
And he opened a store, and he and his brothers, they had like a little chain of stores, one in Manhattan, and his was in the Bronx.
And you did some delivery from after school?
After school, I would go there. My hours were, after school, I would go in and check to see if he had any deliveries. And if he had deliveries, I would deliver them. And then I would come back and help him clean up the store.
Okay.
And pack away whatever little things he wanted me to pack. I didn't do much of that. He did most of it.
Right. But gave you a sense of responsibility for getting anything done. And
learned a heck of a lot.
And learned a lot from him and from that experience. And you would have been young. You would have been 9, 10 years old or something?
Right. 8 years old, 9 years old.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, I worked there, well, probably about 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Working there, work all day Saturday. Actually from like 9 till 5. And if I had to stay over a little longer, I would stay over.
Okay.
He paid me $8 a week.
$8 a week. What did you do with all that money?
I didn't. I gave it to my mother.
Thank you. How wonderful. Yeah.
My mother would give me $2 back.
Okay.
She said, that's enough for you because the family needs the rest. Hey, it didn't bother me. I was eating.
That's really a good lesson. That's really good lessons you're learning.
It was.
Your mother's
to learn that you had you take care of your own needs.
Yeah, and the family was close.
You had to provide for the family.
You had to provide for the family, and it was fine to do that. And you were a sense of camaraderie, and that's really important. And also with the larger community and everything like that.
It taught me that my whole life.
Yeah, that's a lesson to be learned. Yeah, that's a lesson for us all.
Yeah, so
you could do well to learn. Yeah,
to be responsible.
Right. I just had a fellow I talked to the other day, and he said responsible. It's responsibility. Responsibility is able to respond.
Right.
You know what I mean? I never talked it like that. Responsibility. You can respond, and that's important. You've learned that lesson well, apparently.
I did.
And then you went to school here in New York? High school, that kind of thing?
I started in public school. Well, actually, I started in Harlem.
Yeah.
A place called PS 157. The building is still there. Now people live in it.
Okay.
All the other schools, I think they tore down. PS 10, they tore that down.
Right.
It was a unique school, which is the memories of it. That's when
Yeah.
your first school,
Yes.
you had the session where you had milk and cookies.
Yes, I can remember.
And
yeah.
auditorium, this school was designed, so all they do was roll the walls back.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was sitting in the auditorium.
Uh-huh.
It was, a unique design for the time, I guess.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you didn't have to travel from one floor to the other, or down to the basement or wherever the auditoriums are.
Gotcha, yeah. How did you like school? Do you remember? Did you like school? Did you like school or not?
Well, let me put it this way. It wasn't a matter of liking it.
You had to do it.
It was a matter you had to go. Mm-hmm. Actually, when we moved from Harlem, we lived in different parts of it. I lived in almost every borough except Staten Island.
Okay.
Eventually, we ended up in the Bronx.
Okay.
On Kelly Street, the same with Colin Powell lived on.
Really? I'll be darned. Yeah. Okay.
I lived on the Straight Kelly. He lived on Banana Kelly.
Okay.
We didn't know each other.
I don't know straight and banana. What does that mean?
Well, bananas were turned like a banana.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. You see, I'm not that familiar with the Bronx. Yeah.
I was on Straight Kelly.
How was it up in the Bronx?
Well, the Bronx was.
Was that step up, down, or what? Were you going up on the east side? They say going up.
It's on the east side.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a better standard, and things are
the standards
on the
then
upswing
pretty much
of
were
life
the
and
same.
everything, or what?
Pretty much standards were the same.
Okay, standard.
When you say as a kid, the house.
Yeah.
And the decor, the buildings, they pretty much were the same because they're all about the same age.
Right.
The only difference was that I didn't know much about segregation then, whether you could or could not.
Okay.
But it didn't affect me.
That didn't affect your consciousness.
No,
right?
it didn't affect me because I didn't know about it.
Yeah, that's good. If you don't know, you can't be worried about something.
When I moved to Kelly Street, the schools were integrated.
They were integrated with other folks,
They had more blacks and Hispanic than they were whites. But eventually, little by little, the whites were moving away. So I guess my father figured, well, it's time to move from here, and we moved further up in the Bronx.
Okay.
And moved into an all-white neighborhood.
You did?
Yeah. In fact, the neighborhood was, I guess, about 90% Jewish because there was a synagogue on the corner.
Right. Now, at that time, what age are you now when you moved into there?
That's when I'm about 8, 9 years old.
Oh, 8 or 9 only. Okay, you're still young, relative.
Yeah, and that's when I started.
Did you start picking up on any of the racial stuff then, or not? When
Well,
you moved there? Was
bit,
there any of the backlash saying you're going to ruin the neighborhood or that kind of baloney?
It wasn't like a backlash. It's insults more than
insults.
anything.
Yeah.
Only from certain individuals.
Yeah, sure, of course.
But it was a case of Southern parents.
Yeah.
That teach you.
Yeah.
Don't lose your head if somebody say this to you.
Yeah, you had to. Well, just think, I can't believe we had chattel slavery. You had to cast your eyes down at all that baloney that was a characteristic of.
But it was cases people just wanted to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, sure.
And then there was cases.
Also survival.
Yeah, and
it's
then
serious.
there's cases where people they have never dealt with blacks.
Yeah, right.
So they don't know what to do.
They didn't know what they were missing. They didn't know what they were missing.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was an incident. I was on 180th Street delivering orders, and I was bringing the order, and as a little kid, I was a kid too, but this is a smaller kid.
Yeah.
It said, Mommy, says, why is that man black? She says, oh, he stayed in the sun too long.
Oh, yeah.
I said, why did she tell that kid that? Just tell him, that's the kind of people.
Right.
Well, naturally, what am I going to say to them? Say nothing.
You got along with your friends? You're up there now.
Oh.
You're up in the Jewish and they're white, let's say. And
All
you got along okay with them?
Completely.
No problem. You
No
never had to
problem
do
at all.
fisticuffs or anything
No,
like that?
no.
Or you weren't belligerent as a young boy? Did you get in many fist fights ever or anything like that?
No. You had a few fist fights.
Have you had? I've never had a fist fight in my life.
No, you're lucky.
Never. I was talking to some friends the other night. I've never had a fist fight in my life. Like John Wayne movies.
Yeah.
They throw each other over the balcony and fall on a table.
nothing
And
like
how in the hell? I mean, they hit him right in the face. I don't know how. Anyway, but
the little fist fights you have is disagreements.
Yeah, right.
Like somebody takes something to you and you tell them give it back. And they don't want to give it back. And then you got to punch them and say to let them know you mean business.
Right, you are. Well, let's move along. We only got an hour, damn it. We could talk for hours. But the thing is, now you move up and you get into high school, that kind of thing. How did you do that? We want to get you to the military because
I went to the
you're a
school
major. You were a major general in the United States Army, and that's very high up the ladder, my friend. That's very good. I would like to find out about that. But just about your high school, university, that kind of stuff. How did you get into that?
PS6, and then from there I went to Bronx Vocational. I got that vocational background.
Right.
And after I finished high school, I went into the service.
Okay, you went in as an enlisted man?
Enlisted man.
What year would that have been, 53, 54?
That's in 1953.
I went in 54.
Okay, you went the year.
We were in the same time, brother. We were in the same time.
Frame.
Yeah, same time frame. I went in September of 54.
Right, and I went in October of 53.
Oh, you were in way ahead of me.
I finished basic
and you did
training.
considerably better than me, I might say. But anyway, you went in as an enlisted man.
Right, I volunteer draft because when I got out of high school, I tried to get a job, and every place I went, they said, "Well, you're going to be drafted soon."
Yeah, the draft was in. People don't realize that now.
So
the draft was in place. Yeah.
I might as well go ahead and get into the service.
That was Korea time.
So I went down to 161st Street and volunteer draft. And
was that a 3? That wasn't enlistment. Was that a 2-year volunteer draft?
2 years.
It was a 2-year thing.
Volunteer, you got 3 years. But I was
if you enlist, you get 3.
Got 3.
But you were just getting
I said, maybe I won't like it.
Yeah, right.
Right. I was already in the National Guard.
Right. Oh, you were? Okay, right. Okay.
So, and then...
so you're about 20 years old? Or 19, 18? Yeah, 18. Right. That's the same, yeah.
18 years now. So I spent the 2 years on active duty.
Where'd you go to boot camp?
Boot camp.
Not boot camp. Is it called boot camp?
Yeah, so boot camp. Basic training.
Basic training.
Right. Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Fort Dix, yeah.
From there, I went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I learned that education meant a lot.
Okay.
I was in a Graves registration unit.
A what?
A Graves registration. Yeah. And everybody there had to have college because they were either morticians or embalmers or had something to do with the dead.
I see.
And I was sent to that unit as an infantryman to help protect them as part of the
Well, I wonder what their MOS was. Military Occupational Specialty, if I'm correct?
They had specialists.
In Graves?
In Graves. And I had a Graves registration specialist, MOS. I forget the number.
Yeah, right. But you had gone to university.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Oh, right.
I'm only high school still.
Okay, right, okay.
I volunteered
draft. Right, okay.
I couldn't get the job, so now when I get there, I find everybody.
Bronx Technical was a high school.
Right.
Okay, right, okay.
See, I find out now that all these people have college.
Yeah.
And I don't have college.
Right.
So they said, you need a college education. So I said, well, right now I didn't need it for what I was doing. So when I got out, I decided that I better go back to school.
Wait a minute. You got out of the Army after the 2 years?
Right, after the 2 years.
You got an honorable discharge?
Right, honorable discharge.
No captain's mast, no Article 15s, no court-martials?
Like that.
You did okay. You felt comfortable in the environment?
That's where your training comes from, see?
Yeah.
Brought up with Southern parents, discipline.
Okay, that's interesting. See, that's really interesting.
Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm learning from you.
And I had no problem saying yes, sir, no, sir in the service.
You've been saying it all your life.
And I had no problem taking orders.
Right. Okay.
So,
right.
You're in charge. You give the orders. Right. When you're not in charge, you take the orders.
But you learned had they ever suggested you officer candidate school when you were in that first trip?
No.
No, it hadn't. Okay.
No. So after I came out, I got a job with the subway. I went back. I started back to college.
Good for you. It's Horatio Alger.
Fordham University.
Okay.
I started there when I started going that night. But then I had to work, and then recession came.
Oh, boy.
And
which
the
one
recession
was that, 70 or?
This is back in 1956.
56, there was a recession. It seems to me they come with alarming regularity. Yeah.
And the subway laid people off. I was like a provisional worker, so they let me go.
Yeah.
So I got to find a decent job. I can't just hang around here.
Good for you.
So I went and I got a job with the phone company.
Okay.
So I said, well, this is a good company.
What were you doing?
I was a splicer's helper.
Okay.
And once again, I was the only African-American in this position in the Bronx as a splicer's helper. And naturally, people would say, how did you get that job?
Yeah.
I said, well, I applied for it.
Yes, filled out the form. Yeah, right.
I don't know why. I went and applied, and they liked what I had, and I got the job.
Yeah.
And I worked there, and I went to school. Eventually, I got married, and I continued my education.
Did you get a degree?
Not until a long time after.
Okay,
right.
right.
Continuously.
Yeah, it's hard to make a living and still work. Yeah, okay, right.
I decided that I wanted to be a little bit more than what I was. And now I'm back in the National Guard. I got to be a sergeant.
Okay.
And I got to a point where promotions were coming, and you had certain slots. And I could have 2 slots. I could either be a master sergeant, or I could be a second lieutenant.
Well, better to go to second lieutenant.
And I said second lieutenant is higher than a master sergeant.
It is indeed. So it's a qualitative break between the officers and the enlisted men, right?
people.
Yeah,
so,
it always has been, I guess.
Yeah, always. Yeah. I guess that's the way you got to
sort of like the world?
The world is like
that way.
All in Army.
Right, okay, yeah.
So at any rate, I decided I'd go to officer candidate school.
Okay, you got that. Where'd you go?
Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh, down in Oklahoma, yeah. Artillery.
All right, Cannon-Cocos College in Comanche County, Oklahoma.
Oh, all right. How'd you find it? You went to, and that was full-time?
That was full-time, right.
And how'd you enjoy that
It was all right. Once again, I was the only African American.
That must be unique. You know, that'd be unique to be like that. You stand out.
It's good and it's bad.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must be.
When people don't like you for your color, they can easily pick on you.
Yeah.
I had a couple of guys that did that when I was there.
You're rather large. I don't think people would want to pick on you because you could probably handle yourself.
I could handle myself, but it wasn't.
But you also had a disposition that made it possible you get along with people.
Right. You had to get along with
and that's important, again, for life. Yeah, okay.
So you couldn't fight everybody.
No. Right.
But the individuals, if they got too
rambunctious,
then I would report
You could put them in their place if you had to,
but
you didn't want to. You were a gentle giant.
Yeah, I reported this guy. He would single me out and give me demerits because he said I didn't belong there.
Because of your race?
Because of my race.
Oh, that's a pain in the neck. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I ignored that because remember I've been brought up in a white neighborhood. So I'm not afraid of this kind of reprisals. I know how to deal with it.
Right.
So, at any rate, I reported it, and he got admonished for it.
Okay.
And then he backed off, and I had no more trouble with it.
So the system worked for you then?
Right. So,
that's good. It wasn't always working for people that are in those kind of positions, but the system worked for you, and so that would make you feel good about the way the military is set up, maybe.
Right, it was, and that was the thing. The military would give you a fair shake.
Yeah, okay.
So after that, I came back to my unit, and now I'm an officer.
You're a lieutenant?
Lieutenant.
Newly minted second lieutenant?
Second lieutenant. Butterbar, they call him.
What do you call him?
Butterbar.
Butterbar?
Yeah, butterbar. Like butter, the yellow butter.
Oh, yellow butterbar. Okay, I didn't know that. It's a gold color rather than the captain.
Still, I have the experience as an enlisted person, so they can't.
So you were a second lieutenant. It's like an ensign in the Navy, yeah.
Right.
Right, okay.
The only thing I have the experience of enlisted people.
So you got that's good experience to have had.
So now they can't give me any BS. Because I know what the deal is.
Yeah.
If you bug out, I know where you're hiding.
Yeah.
So I already knew the ropes. Good
Good education you got in officers training school?
Good training.
I mean, technical. I mean, educationally relevant stuff, history, and all that. And
it taught me all the subject survey.
And you applied yourself well, and you enjoyed it and everything. So you were off to the races.
So you learn everything. You learn motors. You learn communication. You learn survey, and you learn to use the work details and how to handle people and whatnot. So it was a round of education.
It was practical minded. Right.
So I end up back now. I'm working with the phone company still because this is the.
Wait a minute, you're out of. You were an officer. You were a second lieutenant.
National Guard.
National Guard.
So it's not a full-time military thing. It's a part-time military.
Okay.
So then I come back, I go back to my job.
Still in the National Guard.
Still in the National Guard. I go there for drill and weekends. And because of this, you see, now it helps me on my job.
Okay, sure.
Because the training I got with the military certainly coincides with using these skills on your job.
Yes, indeed. Now, it's a long, long way from second lieutenant to Major General. Can you fill us in on how all that happened?
All right, that happened. It happened mostly I was in the 369.
Yeah, it was 360 at that time. Okay.
Most of the time I was in the 369. And I served as what they call a company grade officer.
Company grade, okay.
Right, whereas that's between second lieutenant and captain.
Okay, yeah.
I served on every one of the companies that they had. And I served in almost every position.
Right.
I ended up as what they call company commander, battery commander.
Battery, yeah.
And I knew, once again, my experience paid off because I knew the enlisted people.
Right.
And I knew the officer part.
And you can have leadership qualities that people can really resonate to without being martinet and everything.
Right. So it was easy enough for me to get everybody to do what they're supposed to do, so to build a team.
Best way to do is have what they're doing on their own terms. If you can get them to do it on their own terms,
right,
without
get them on their own terms.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah,
their responsibility.
That's called leadership.
The job that they have.
Yeah,
and my responsibility is to make sure you do what you're supposed
to
do.
But there's different ways in which that can be done. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. You have to use. You can't just go and chew people out and get things done.
No, people do try to do that.
Right.
Authoritarian.
People want to do it.
Yeah, and that's built into the system in a way. It's understood. It's there. Right. But we want to get that now, because for you to get from second lieutenant, and we got to move along. We only got an hour. We could talk 25 hours with no problem about South Carolina.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we got to move. So for you to get from second lieutenant in the National Guard thing, you would have had to gone to become a major general. That's 2-star general.
That's right.
That's very high.
Right. That's
in my way
as high
of thinking.
As you can go.
Well, you could have become 5-star. I mean,
not
Mr. Eisenhower.
Not in the National Guard.
Not in the National Guard. That's as high as you can go. Congratulations on having gotten to the top of it. Now, the thing I'm getting at is you would have had to have gone to War College or something that would have set you up.
Now, there's a number of schools in between you have to continue your education. So from there, you go from what they call the battery or company grade schools.
Yeah.
You go to the staff grade school, which is they call the I'm missing the thing now, the advanced courses.
Yeah.
And then you do your advanced courses. And then you got the command and staff school. So you go to the command and staff. That's at Fort Leavenworth. Once again, I had to do that on active duty. And then from that prepares you to take over high staff positions. Yeah. Like on a division or higher. And then from that, doing a good job, getting what they call good ratings. They promoted me to major. And then from major, they promoted me to lieutenant colonel. They gave me the battalion commander of the 369.
Okay, and it was as lieutenant colonel.
So now I'm the private that came in there, and now I'm the commander.
American success story.
But once again, I knew how to apply the leadership qualities to make the unit function.
Now, forgive me, they were making some noise here, I heard, and everything got me distracted a little bit. But we got a clip we're going to get in. We want to make sure we get it in about the 359?
369.
369. Anyway, but we'll run that in a couple of minutes. But were you talking then about the War College? With those things you were going through at that level with because in order to become a major general,
you have to go to the War College.
Yeah. Now, those things you were just talking about, the things you were learning, were not part of your War College experience. It was separate. How do they pick the people that are going to go? And maybe explain the War College. It sets up for the general officers. If you're going to be a general officer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Share with us.
The War College is set up for people that are going to be career people.
Okay.
And they're going to be on high staff position or general officers. And so what it is, you're going to be working on a general staff someplace.
Like graduate school.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like one of the highest schools in education for the Army.
Right.
So when you end up there and then you get a good rating. How they pick the people based on your rating.
Yeah.
And what your character is and whatnot. The War College staff picks the people that go to it.
Oh, really? Now, War College is an institution that exists geographically somewhere?
It's in Carlisle Barracks.
Where is that? What state?
That's in Pennsylvania.
Always? That's where it is?
That's where the Army War College.
The Army War College, so that's what we're dealing with. Right. And that's where the people who are touted to become general officers and like leaders at the higher level of the officer corps would routinely go to
Right.
get trained up for that position that
Right.
was before them, right?
Now, the Navy has a war college, and so does the Air Force.
I'm supposed they would,
So-
but let's not. We can't deal with the whole
Right,
world.
but
We
they're
got
in
to
a
deal with the
different-
Army.
they're in a
You're Army,
different line.
but so you were selected, and it was a sense of distinguished,
Right.
distinction for you to be selected. And then you went to War College, and how was that?
Well, the war college is like any other college.
It's a
You
college.
get up and
Is
you
it
go to-
rigorous?
It's vigorous. You
Is
go
it
to-
rigorous physically, or is the whole process like if you go to Ranger School, it's very
No,
physical?
That's a different type of
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
That's the Ranger School is giving you a specialty for special exercises and warfare.
Yeah.
The War College give you the more the brainy end
Right.
on how to utilize the different elements of the service
Right.
in order to apply it to warfare or
Right.
to whatever assignment that you get.
Right, and it's taking you up the line of responsibility.
Right.
Okay, so you're getting there. Do you at the War College begin to get to a position? I'm trying to compare it. Let's say that would be like a senior vice president in a corporation or something. I'm just
Like
thinking.
you're sitting in a position that you could be.
Yeah. Okay.
And now they're seeing if you can do it. They send you to school to see if you can qualify.
And is it? Do they have a lot of washouts, or do you like med school
yeah.
or something? People
Well,
don't
most-
make the cut and that kind of thing, as
A
they
lot,
say.
a lot of them don't make the
But
cut.
you did.
It's like an elimination, but
Okay.
it's not so much an elimination as to eliminate you. It's those who come out with the highest scores.
And that's intellectual test taking and that kind of thing, as well as getting along with people, leadership qualities that can be
Combination.
seen, combination of active ingredients
Right.
that would look for quality.
Right. And,
Congratulations.
and your ability
And your ability
to do the academic part.
Well, the academic, that's what I
Yeah.
meant, intellectual, they do that.
Right.
And if you're in the War College, you begin to get into a position where you would become somewhat knowledgeable of overall strategic questions of the military's mission and that sort of thing.
Right, you learn all
Or
of
you
that.
begin to get that sense of
Right.
responsibility like a chief executive officer would
Right,
have
you
for a
would,
corporation.
and how
And
to-
they begin to make you able to be understanding geostrategic thinking. You might
Right.
study geopolitics a little bit or that kind of thing.
Not so much the
Yeah.
politics, but
Yeah.
to understand that everything is political.
Okay.
But at the same token, you understand what it takes to wage war,
Okay.
what it takes to make peace.
Okay.
You learn where all the resources are in the world.
Okay, that's a biggie, isn't
Right,
it?
it is.
Yeah. And the populations.
Right, where the populations are, what the religions are, where the hot spots are. And where
You know,
the
you
cold spots.
you just laid out a whole lot that you could learn.
Right,
You
there's
could
a
spend a
lot.
lifetime learning all
That's
that.
right,
But
you
that's
could.
good. And they do bring you up
Right.
on you do that. I did a doctorate in geography, so I'm familiar with the kind of things you're
Something
talking
like
about.
that.
Yeah.
Just like you said, we're copper.
Uh-huh.
You know, we got copper here in the United States.
Got what?
Copper.
Kappa?
Copper, you know, the penny coin.
Oh, copper. Yeah.
Well, you got it in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And you got it in South America.
You also have it in a lot of the transatlantic cables. 175,000 tons of copper cables can handle on one satellite now.
Right, but the thing is,
175,000
that's
tons.
true. But where do they get the copper?
Well, they got it out of the ground somewhere.
That's
And
what
you
I'm
got to know where
saying.
in those
You gotta know
resources.
where you get it.
Yeah, and you got it. Well, that's what I'm thinking. You're thinking strategic.
Right, so
Did you
strategic thinking.
Did you think about land power? Did you think about Halford Mackinder? Did you think about George Kennan's containment notions and the ideas that informed the political class and the higher grades of officers? You say two-star general, major general, as high as you can go within the
National
context
Guard.
that you were.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
so you're not regular Army, or what is
No,
it?
we're like a reserve force of the Army.
Okay.
But right now they work with the Army the
They
same as
do.
the
They're
Army.
doing tours. They keep
Same
doing.
thing.
It's unfair. It seems to me. They keep shipping them over.
Well,
but you were as high as you could get in terms of the National Guard
Right.
milieu in which you were.
Right.
What was your relationship as National Guard to the regular Army?
We were components.
Components
Our
of.
units were part of the regular Army.
Okay, and
That
you
was-
would. Okay.
We're the same thing. We got unit numbers. We're organized the same.
Uh-huh.
So if they call us, we went in as a unit.
And you never had to see duty? I mean, active
No,
duty?
that's it's like the rivalry of services.
Uh-huh.
Well, when the Desert Storm came,
Yeah.
I was a general officer. Right? So
You
I
were
said,
a general. That was brigadier.
brigadier.
Yeah.
And so they selected.
That's 1 star, right?
1 star. They selected some of my units to go.
Uh huh.
So I asked, could I go with them? They said, no, we had enough generals.
Oh, they had an overflow of generals, right?
Their own generals.
Well, do they have a lot? They have a lot of generals at the brigadier general level. They have fewer at major general. Then what comes after major general?
Lieutenant general.
Lieutenant general, and then general officer.
General.
General officer 4-star.
General is 4-star.
And then we have a field commander or something at 5-star, like Eisenhower.
That's a wartime rank. In order to be a 5-star general, you have to command Allied forces.
Allied, yeah.
And that's how Eisenhower and MacArthur.
Yeah.
And Bradley. And well, the only one that didn't do that was George Washington.
He didn't. What?
They made him a 5-star general.
They did right off the bat. Well, they had to do it up in Yorkville or up in Yorktown Heights or something.
Father of the country.
Under dint of necessity, that was a different kind of situation, but they got all that. So then you were a general. Congratulations on having gotten to be at such a thing. You began to get an overview of the politics and the relating of the politics, let's say locally, and the Congress. The appropriations, the way in which the military works and so forth became your purview as a 2-star general. You had to become wise to the way the system works.
In other words, that's another part of the War College.
Yeah.
They call it Industrial War College.
Okay.
And then there was one other was that I had to learn was you go in civilian clothes all the time in this one. You don't wear your uniform.
Which one?
You go
the
to
industrial one you're talking about?
Xerox.
Xerox. You go to Xerox company and see the way it works?
And they teach the subjects there.
They teach the subjects at the Xerox Corporation?
Right. And this is when you learn about the politics and how the countries function and different issues.
Politics of the world.
Right, of the world.
Geopolitics,
a simple thing like chicken.
Yeah.
Now, if you're buying chickens and your country is using all the chickens, and you go to a poorer country where they have chickens, and you buy the chickens from this poorer country, well, the people in the country can't afford the chickens because you're paying higher prices for them. So as a result, you get a bad mark for doing that because the people in there are looking at you as keeping them from having chickens. Right, okay. You're buying all the chickens.
And you have to become sensitive to those kind of issues because you're in a position of responsibility for a lot of men.
Right, you got to watch that type of stuff. That So it's a case of, once you go into an area, and this is taught, you go in the area, you got to look at the civilian population as the people that live there, and you can't mistreat them.
Is that anything like what they call, sometimes derisively, some people would call nation building or being concerned about the context, the social context?
I went on one of those two nation building with Panama. I had right after the...
After Noriega?
I had units down there in Panama. And that's why I say, if you're poor, you don't know you're poor. Now, going there, the people certainly were poor, but they lived near the jungle, and they lived near the sea. And I said they got all the good food out of the jungle. They got all the good fish out of the sea, and the few pigs and chickens that they had the pork and the chicken. I said, they had everything except they didn't have all fancy clothing and shoes. In fact, hardly anybody had on shoes. There were no paved roads. And when we went in there, they had schools. We were building schools for them.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, and they had no lights in the school. In fact, in this particular town we're in, it's the first time they ever saw a fluorescent light.
All right.
And we were putting fluorescent lights all through the school. And it's like a one-room. We were building two-room school.
Is that like near Cologne, or there's? I'm trying to think of the Panama. You're in Panama.
It's in Panama.
Were you in the zone, or are we outside the zone, or
in the zone?
In the zone, yeah.
It's
on the west or the.
Well, you run both of them.
Yeah,
you got the Pacific and the Atlantic.
Yeah, right.
And you go into these little jungle villages and towns outside.
Yeah.
And once you're there, that's where the people live.
Yeah.
That's what I found out. The buses there were free. You could get on the bus. You don't have to do anything. The Panama zone paid for it. Okay. So you didn't have to worry about coffee.
Yeah, right.
So you didn't have to worry about a car. Everybody got on the bus.
You were at a major general level when you were doing that?
Yes.
Now, if you're a major general, how many men do you have, or people, personnel, do you have under your sway or under your command?
When I was there, it was about 17,000.
17,000, a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, That's a lot of responsibility, and you have to know all that, and you have to make it work.
That's all the units that are assigned to you.
And then you depend upon your other officers, brigadier generals or colonels or whatever, to help you. And you have to say, it's rather like being in a corporate situation where you have vice presidents of different divisions within a corporate. It's sort of like that, right?
You have staff meetings.
And then you also have people you have to answer to that are at the, what is it called, after the major general is hired?
The next person up is the adjutant general of the state of New York. That's
Oh, for you, because you're National Guard. And so you're, but in the regular Army,
you have a 4-star.
Well, 4-star. But who's a 3-star called?
The 3-star is a lieutenant general.
But you're not responsible to a lieutenant general within the National Guard?
But sometimes, depending if you're in the command. No, in the National Guard, you're not.
You're not, and you were always in the National Guard?
Right.
Okay.
So
and it was part of the 369?
My highest commander was the adjutant general.
Okay.
And then the governor.
Because it goes to the state level, right? I see. That's the command you were in, but it is adjacent to and part of the overall Army of the United States of America.
Right.
Okay, that's good. One of the things you have to do, I could talk to you for 1,000 hours because you're such a personable fellow. I can see why you've done so well, and we have to come to know each other better. You have to come and visit, meet my dog, and my friend, and all that kind of stuff. And I look forward to it. But you're the president of the Fighting 369th Association of Veterans and so on. And we have a little piece of tape. I want to make sure we get it in. We'd set it up, and maybe we could talk about that, and we can come back. But could you, as they say, set it up, explain what the little piece of tape is that we're going to see?
It's like the Harlem Hellfighters.
All right, Harlem Hellfighters. Is that what the name of the 369?
Right, Harlem Hellfighters.
Boy, we could talk an hour on that, couldn't we?
That's the Germans gave them that name.
No, really? Yeah.
They said fierce fighters.
In the Second War?
First War.
First War.
Right. That's interesting too because.
See, we could talk for hours. Do you know a guy named Bullock? Eugene Bullock or something Bullock. He was an ace fighter out of Georgia.
I heard of him.
Hung with, what's her name? The famous, he was really good. He was
Tuskegee Airmen?
No, not directly. But anyway, I'll send you a link to that. But he was...
his name is familiar.
Yeah, Bullock. I'm going to send you a link to it. He's a real genuine hero from the First World War. Black man from Georgia, came up and he became an ace. And the famous... anyway, what's the tape we're going to see? We got a little piece of videotape.
It's just a little piece of... what they call the Men of Bronze, which is the name of the tape.
Men of Bronx or Bronze?
Bronze.
Bronze.
Right. And
why is it bronze?
Oh, it's to bring the permanency to who they are.
Oh, okay.
Like a bronze plaque.
Okay, I see.
These are the Men of Bronze. I guess that name came... There's a plaque in the 369th Armory as you go into
That's uptown, right?
That's right. It's at 142nd Street and 5th Avenue.
Okay.
It's the last thing on 5th Avenue.
Could I come there and visit you sometime?
Sure.
Okay.
We got a nice museum there and everything.
Good, okay. And you're president of that association?
I'm the president of two organizations, the Veterans Association and the Historical Society.
Okay, good.
So that's why I know so much of the history of it.
Yeah.
So
we got a piece of tape of a march, right? Or a march
this is part of the parade.
And you do this annually?
Annually, we do a parade the third Sunday in May. We march up 5th Avenue.
Hellfighters of Harlem.
Harlem Hellfighters.
And this is Harlem Hellfighters, and we're going to run that. Let's set that up. We got a little. It's just a minute or so, right?
Right.
It's only a minute or so, but to give you a march down 5th Avenue or something.
Idea how the unit go. They went from khaki uniforms, where you'll see the first part.
Yeah.
And then you show when they first went up.
Yeah.
5th Avenue, they got on the World War I uniform.
Yeah.
And to show you the progress. Since then, we've been marching on a parade.
Keep marching, brother. Okay, let's run that piece of tape now. We're talking with Nethaniel James. Run the tape, please.
New York City. Soldiers of the 369th New York National Guard parade up 5th Avenue. Many of these men are the sons and grandsons of the old New York 15th Infantry, the Harlem Hellfighters, who became famous in France.
Oh, yes, we're back. That was really good. We didn't hear it there. You're marching. That's a good thing to march all in step like that. It was reminiscent of the First War and everything like that. It's really interesting you've done that. What a great experience in a way you never did have to see or never were personally called into a military action where there was fighting going on, like that kind of thing, or not? I mean,
never.
You were in during Korea.
Postal strike.
Yeah, yeah.
Things like that. With prison strike, stuff like that.
Are you trained up any different if you're going to be in that position, or are they trained up the same way general officers are in the regular Army?
Same thing.
You have the same kind of training?
Exact same qualifications. The only difference is that I don't serve them day to day, every day. You go to the same schools, you serve with them. Right. And all the training that you get is the same training that they get. So the qualifications are the same. If you miss one of the pieces that you're supposed to, you can't go on. So that's why the War College is for all general officers. Right. Have to go through this. All have to go through the Command and General Staff's College. The Command and General Staff's College. That's good. When you get to that place, you said it's in Pennsylvania or something. When you get there, are there is it a thing that, like, college starts in September or something? When you get there, how many people are there that are part of that class? If you could say you're the class of 57 or something, how many would be there? Usually about 400 or 500 people. 400 or 500? Right. And it comes through on an annual cycle or something? On an annual cycle. And how long is it that you attend that? How long is it you're in that environment? If you take what they call, there's two phases that you have. Yeah. One of them is what they call a correspondence phase. Okay. And the other one is what they call active phase. Okay. Active phase is about a year, and that's when you live right there on the place. Okay. And the correspondence phase is you do the same courses and everything, except they send them to you in correspondence courses. Okay. You write out your tests and send them back. Okay, now wait. Is this special for the National Guard, or is this the same for anybody in the United States Army? Anybody in the United States Army. Anybody who's being considered for high-level general officer status, right? Okay, right. Now, so it's important. Remember, earlier I told you that the college staff is the one who picks the names, who attends, but they depend on who will attend which. That's like, you can't say I want to do the active. Oh, you don't volunteer for that. They pick you out of it. It's like the SAT scores for people going into college or something. Yeah. And do they have a good way of judging that? And, well, I never figured out that. Never figured out how it would. They just said, "You want to come?" You said, "I'll go." Some people get elected, and some people don't. Right. Okay. And if you're elected, you say, "Well, I'm the right." You never did find out by what standards they decide who the general officer candidates are. Candidates for general office status within the military are selected. Well, I know that there is always the people competitive from scoring, and it's based on your ratings. Ratings are determined by ratings what? By what? What determines the ratings? Ratings is what your commanders think of you as you're applying yourself to your job. It's like your peer group. Right, your peer groups. Okay. And your superiors. And those ratings depend upon not only quantitative standards of, certain forms, but also in precise things like personality, ability to do. Takes all that into it. Social skills and psychological ability to lead without cracking a whip and that kind of thing, and they know the qualities of leadership. Right. Okay. And this is all taken into account. And somewhere along the line, why they pick you and not pick somebody else, maybe it's a wheel they turn, but I don't know. Could be an accident. Well, it could end up being an accident. Probably not, like though. Custom. But it's like anything. There's selection processes by which they decide all things in terms of a society that's organized this way. Who gets to go to Harvard Law and all this? There's all these kind of things that are going on within, and it's the same within the military. If you get elected, you feel that you think it's a good process. We tend to select the right people to become our 3- and 4-star general leaders of the military and so forth. I always look at it like this. I serve with a lot of guys my kid, and they're quality guys too. Yeah, yeah. And why they picked me and not pick him? If they pick him, I think he would have did the same job. They just say, "I'm lucky I got picked."
Well, it's like that, yeah.
It's like that. So even if they pick him, he would have been a good officer.
How do you relate with the people who are at a higher level than you? They're ones that are 3- and 4-star general. Do you relate to them when you were in the National Guard?
Certainly.
People at the Pentagon and people who are thinking national security and going before Congress and making, those kind of things. Those people are also selected. Chief of Staff, Chief of Army, that kind of thing.
Those are the guys that get the 3 and the 4 stars.
Yeah. Does that require? You mentioned Mr. Powell. Did you know Mr. Powell very well?
I know him, but I didn't know him until after he was a 4-star general.
Yeah, but you did know him. You've known him in your life. You know him. He's a friend of yours, or a friend. Okay, that's good. Now, he was selected, and he became he was mentored by people within the political process. When you get up into that level, 3, 4-star general, you're dealing with the political process. So we got a system for collecting political leadership. We just elected a new president. That's like a 5-star general of those. You know what I'm saying? So that process is one that you have to begin to relate to the political realities and the geostrategic and geopolitical realities, I guess, right?
I always tell my officers, as I thought, once you become a major, you're called a field grade officer.
Okay.
From that point on, you have to think of political.
From major on.
Right, from major on, because
Lieutenant
from now
Colonel
on, you're really an official officer.
All right, from major
until you're a
above
major, people don't pay too much attention to you. What you do, unless you're set on an assignment.
It's sort of like a corporate thing. You have sales, you have vice president of sales, and then you got executive vice president, senior vice president, that kind of thing. It's sort of built. I guess the world's set up that way.
So the major is the guy is a field officer.
Right.
So he's got this supposed to have more experience.
Yeah.
He's supposed to know what companies are and how they function and what.
Right.
You get to be a lieutenant colonel.
That's getting up there.
And then you get to the point that you have to know the larger area responsibility to operate in different units.
Sort of like levels of responsibility writ large in the society.
And then you get to be a colonel. You got to convince people to do what you want.
Colonel is high. Oh, you do? You do.
Right, because if they all got their own commanders.
Right.
So you got to convince these guys to make sure you carry my orders out like I say. And you can't go down and do it for them.
But you've also got to be able to relate with other colonels. And you also got to be able to relate with other brigadier generals.
Right.
And there's a thing, and you have to learn how to do that thing. It's sort of political in a sense, like you say.
That's called the political side.
And you must have been able to have some of those skills to become so successful.
Right. And then you're dealing with people in the towns.
Yeah, that's so.
Like I say, in the city.
Yeah.
So I had to learn the politicians in the city.
Right.
So you have to learn to deal with them because there's always civic things that you're involved with.
Right. Yeah, it's a thing of great responsibility.
Right.
And for them to be the selection process by which they do that might be a good guide for a lot of the society in general, because the qualities of leadership could apply within the corporate world or within the business world or within the academic. You ever see academics fight? They can really fight with one another. You have a professor, or who's going to be the provost.
Right.
You have the same kind of thing that goes on. There must be competition
right.
or maneuvering
right.
in terms of who's going to move up the ladder.
Right.
Were you ever paying much attention to that? Or
Always.
Oh, you were paying attention to it. Always, you had to, right? Okay, well, that's the way it goes. Well, congratulations on having navigated all that, and it's really interesting. Do you get to be where you're in touch with the broader, even like the Defense Department level thinking, or is it important for the leaders? Let's just say we got a president, then you've got Defense Department, you have Secretary of Defense, and there is a knowledge of them, what's going on and what's the rationale behind what the United States is doing within the world, all that. Is it important for the people throughout the organization to understand that, or is that only something that the people at the very top have to have responsibility and understanding for, and the work of those that are below that, even down in the enlisted class? Is it important that they have a sense of mission or understanding of the mission of the overall operation?
Right.
The whole people all the way down to the private?
Right. Everybody,
is it important or not?
Or you should have briefings to let everybody know from the line right on down.
You find it works better the more they understand.
When they all know.
When they know. So there would be transparency. The idea of transparency would be good to infuse. when we have a time of all-out war, like the Second War, everybody was in the game.
Right.
You know, everybody was very, but then Vietnam, remember we had a lot of trouble because there was a lot of dissension.
Right,
You understand?
that's right.
So that's an important quality of leadership. And for the people at the top, to have that be able to infuse the society from a knowledge position of knowing what the hell the mission is and what we're doing and not be confused is an important part of having a well-moving, well-organized overall organization.
Right. In other words, you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and if you can infuse that throughout the whole organization, that's much to the advantage of what would be called a leadership quality, and that's something we would be looking for in our organizational leadership and also in our political leadership, right?
There's one other school that we went to, and they call Charm School.
Charm School.
And that's when you meet the political people in the higher ranks, like not the president, but maybe a vice president or
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense.
Big time.
People like that.
Yeah.
And you go to this, it's a class.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And you meet with all these people. They come in.
Do you actually meet with the people, or are you meeting with actors who are playing that role?
No.
These are
the real people.
So you got to be on your best behavior.
And right. and you bring your wife.
Yeah. Oh, bring the whole family. Bring the dog. Yeah.
She's involved in your career too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's a case of saying, suppose they ask you questions, how to deal with the press, how you should handle it. If you're going to do this and you need information, you got places you can call to find that information out. Right. So you'll know what the political thing is and you know what the military thing is. And so this is the part of saying to polish you up. So that when you go someplace, you don't look like a dunce.
No, you don't look like a dunce. You are able to be sized up, in the words of my daddy, who used to say, that man looks to me like a class act.
Okay.
That kind of thing, to get that kind of skill to do it. Well, that's part of life's learning.
That's part
and you've done it with your life, if I may say so, and I congratulate you enormously on such a very well-led life that continues.
Well, I'm still doing it.
Yes, that's very good. From South Carolina to Harlem to that and everything. It's really interesting, and I just hope this might be like at the end of the movie Casablanca. Have you ever seen the movie Casablanca? And Humphrey Bogart said to Claude Rains, Louis, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Right. Nathaniel, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much for coming in. Major General Nethaniel James, a sterling fellow, as you can see, and a person who sets a good standard for the military service, filling consent on the way that works and finding that it works in the military very much like it does in civilian life and that sort of thing. Thank you really very, very much for all the good service. I could have talked to you for 15 hours easy. And we've got to become we're better acquainted with each other. I look forward to coming up to see you sometime.
Okay, I'll be looking forward.
And I'd like you to come by and see me and meet my dog.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you for viewing. It's been your pleasure to have the perceptions of the Major General, and my pleasure to have welcomed him to the program. We invite you to tune in. We'll be coming back again tomorrow, and so please do tune in. But it's been, again, your pleasure to have the perceptions of Major General Nethaniel James, the president currently of the Fighting 369th.
369 Harlem Hellfighters.
Harlem Hellfighters, that be. So really good to have filled that in and everything. And I thank you for filling me in on the way the military works. We're not familiar with it in the civilian world so much and everything. Right. And I'm only here to I was never anything more than a private in the Army. Right. And I didn't we went in at the same time, but we had very different experiences. I had a great deal of experiences what they used to call an Article 15. Okay. I used to get an Article 15 with alarming regularity for hijinks, you know. But anyway, it was still there, and that sort of thing. So I had a different experience. But I really respect you for the experience you have, and we could go on talking at much greater length, but welcome to Manhattan Network. Maybe you or some of the people from the Fighting 369th might think about becoming producers of a program down.